Oddities. Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Curiosities. I'm Curator Raquel.
And I'm Curator Warbeauty.
Coming at you live from Nineveh. Are you going to say it?
Why don't we tell our audience why we're in Nineveh today and how we got there?
Frankly, our audience should have told us.
You know what's so funny is I actually knew that too.
Did you?
So,
a couple episodes ago, we discussed, I think it was in the Possessions episode.
Because Jonah, and we're talking about the belly of the beast.
Yeah, I think it was the Possessions episode. So 2 episodes ago, we told the story of Jonah and the whale, more specifically the VeggieTales version of it. But in our retelling, we said that Jonah was told to go to Nazareth, and we have since been told that that is in fact not true, and he was supposed to go to Nineveh.
Yeah. So here's what happened, is that I just don't know if I care to get the places right, because nobody knows where Nineveh is.
Nobody knows where Nineveh is.
None of you know what that is.
I don't know where it is.
Exactly.
And in my defense, I'm not a Christian, so it's not my job to know that.
No, and we're not Christians, but, I feel that as a seminarian, as someone who graduated seminary once.
You're making him very proud.
Making him so proud.
Yeah. Yeah, so, thank you to, one of our followers that did pass along that information to us.
Which was then reaffirmed by another follower.
Yeah.
Who was sitting in that conversation and said, yeah, I thought you did it on purpose.
We should have gone with that.
I was cool with it.
Yeah, so anyway, Jonah went to Nineveh, not Nazareth, and we're dumb. Welcome to our educational podcast.
My mom says that we're the Wayne's World.
Oh no.
Of religion.
Good.
And I don't know if I've ever been more proud of my life. Of any title I've ever received.
That's what the next review is gonna say.
I was thinking we should just start using reviews like that, you know?
Yeah.
These girls are like the Wayne's World of metaphysics.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I graduated seminary once.
That's what the next Apple review is gonna say.
I hope so. And hey guys, thanks for leaving us reviews. Thank you for giving us feedback.
Oh my gosh, the feedback is incredible.
Thank you for showing us love.
So great. So do you want to get into the episode? I know that you're excited about this week. It's one of your favorite topics.
Because there's a lot of hot takes.
There are. A spicy episode.
This is gonna be Controverse City.
Oh no.
Okay.
That's fine. I think most of our listeners are fairly on board with your hot takes.
These are gonna be these are sexy takes.
Oh.
Like they're like wearing a bikini, they're so hot.
Oh no.
So
girls, lesbians in bikinis on roller skates?
Yes. That's exactly what this episode is.
Good. I'm ready.
So here's what's happening right now is we're going to talk about stigmata and more specifically miracles.
Yes, because this is part 5 of our mini-series on metaphysical taboos.
That's true. It is.
Next week's the finale.
What?
I know.
Well, so then let me make this super cool for you guys. So we have these things called miracles, and miracles are essentially unexplained religious phenomena.
Sure, unexplained religious phenomena. I've seen it described as when Jesus does a magic trick. It's called a miracle. A miracle is, I would say, an act of God.
Yes, that's essentially what it is. It is something that is so larger than life and supernatural.
So unexplainable.
It's unexplained. And there are actually really several prominent miracles that I'm not sure people know are even miracles.
I mean, we know, the popular ones. The crowd favorites.
Right, so let's get into that. Let's get into the crowd favorites, which are primarily Christian in origin, actually.
Yes. Miracles tends to be a very Christian-heavy word.
Yeah, it definitely is. Now, this doesn't negate the fact that there are miracles in other religious systems in the world.
There are. Where there is a God, there will be an act of God.
Yes. But Christianity is typically what you associate it with. So we'll start with the popular ones. And, I mean, we can just get right into it.
Okay. Pop right into it.
Let's talk about my favorite one, which was the other title of this episode.
Such a favorite that it's the title of the episode.
Okay, guys, I need you to understand. Imagine I'm, like, 10.
Okay. Easy. I'm there.
I'm obsessed with Stigmata.
I want you to know that before I met you, I had never heard of it.
I know. Nobody knows what Stigmata is. And I need you to know that I became literally obsessed with the idea of Stigmata that I tried to get Stigmata.
That sounds about right, yeah.
So, imagine 10-year-old zealot war beauty in the making. Like,
A baby war beauty.
Baby war beauty. Trying her best to be so virtuous that God God sees this and comes down and gives me holy wounds.
So, Stigmata is...
Let's go, by the way. So, Stigmata are physical wounds on the human corpus, on the corpse, on the body, that mimic, or, I mean, they don't mimic, they are the wounds...
Replicate.
That's the word. They replicate the wounds of Jesus Christ when he died on the cross.
Sure. They're crucifixion wounds.
So you've got the 2 holes in the feet, or the 2 wounds in the feet, 2 wounds in the palms of your hands, and then you have the spear wound in the side. Mm-hmm. These are the crucifixion wounds, and when someone says that they have Stigmata, or you hear about Stigmata, that is...
You won't.
Unless you do, which you are now educated thanks to us.
Whenever you bring up Stigmata to your friends,
right?
Because now you want to talk about it,
right? It's a really cool party topic.
It is. It's a very interesting discussion topic.
Exactly. So, Stigmata is as you guys know. Allegedly, I'm going to use allegedly.
Okay, sure.
After Jesus was crucified, there were holes in his hands and his feet.
Sure.
And Stigmata is not holes.
Okay.
Like, not like you can't, like, put your finger
like
through
an
them.
open flesh wound?
Yeah, there's not, like, a big see-through peephole in your hands and your feet.
Okay.
Stigmata is, like a bleeding wound that is going to resemble those wounds.
Okay.
But it won't actually be, like, an actual wound all the way through.
Okay.
So, Stigmata, what is it? Why do we care about it?
So, well, the question is, how did it come about? Because clearly it is something that has a name to it. It's not just a one-time ordeal.
No, okay, so this is really interesting about Stigmata.
Like, it's named, so it has to happen.
Right, so Stigmata is an interesting phenomena that started with the first ever known case of Stigmata, which was Saint Francis of Assisi. So for those who are not familiar or not Catholic, Saint Francis of Assisi is a very prominent Catholic saint, and he is the patron saint of, like, nature and the environment. So he was doing this really cool, like, trip up in the mountains.
Okay.
Right? And he was like, oh man, I'm gonna go and do all this cool prayer stuff.
As one does.
Right. And, well, he was a monk.
Sure.
And so he went up into the mountains, did all this cool prayer thing. So he was allegedly fasting beforehand. Now, we only have records of this. I obviously can't vouch for him personally.
Sure, and we can't ask him.
This was in, like, 1224.
Okay.
So in the 1200s, he goes and he does this whole prayer thing in the mountains.
Okay.
And falls ill. And he has all of this illness, and he goes to all these physicians in the cities, and they can't diagnose him. They can't figure out what's wrong with him. And he has these wounds in his body, in his feet, in his hands, and on his side.
So he was alive.
Oh yeah, you're not dead for Stigmata.
Okay, so in your definition of it, you said on your corpus, on your, like, corpse.
Yeah, on your.
I know
on your body.
corpus means body, but corpse doesn't.
No,
so I thought that you meant on your corpse.
No,
okay,
no,
so
not
this
on your
is a
dead body.
living wound.
Oh yes, this is you're alive for this.
Good.
You're experiencing this awake.
Good. Fascinating.
I couldn't tell you if it's painful or not. So there's really no record of people reporting pain levels.
Right.
Because here's the deal. The Catholic Church doesn't like to just declare miracles left and right.
No, they don't.
They did for a while, but then they really knocked that off. So it's really hard to get classified as a miracle now. I mean, it's like next to impossible in my personal opinion, but that's just me. So St. Francis of Assisi is the first case we have of this guy with these Christ-like crucifixion wounds that he inexplicably acquired.
Okay.
Now, we do know that he fell ill. So,
But did he fall into a sword?
No.
Okay.
To our knowledge. Again, I wasn't there. I couldn't tell you.
Right, sure. Okay. So he obtains these wounds.
So he has these wounds and he ends up dying. Not from them, but he's
with them.
Just with them. He's dead.
Okay. From his other mysterious illness.
Yes.
Okay.
So whatever, he's dead now, right?
Okay.
So then you have another case about a century later. You have this guy, Padre Pio, and Padre Pio
Okay.
is the second case of stigmata that crops up.
Okay. Fascinating. A whole century later.
Well, exactly. So he also was sainted in 2002.
Was St. Francis?
Wow, when he was sainted. I don't remember when he was sainted.
Okay, you said also, so I was like, oh, is that a thing? You get sainted in 2002?
Well, as we spoke about in the episode where we talked about holy people, sainthood
Yes.
is difficult to achieve, but it's usually you can't even be considered until 5 years after your death.
Right.
Now, St. Francis and Padre Pio, they were considered hundreds of years after their death.
Right.
So they were just recent. Well, St. Francis wasn't recently, but Padre Pio was recently sainted.
Okay.
And he is the second known case and recognized case. This is important, is that you'll see a lot of people talking about, and you'll see a lot of articles, if you ever Google stigmata, you'll see a lot of articles talking about how there are hundreds of cases since St. Francis of Assisi, hundreds of cases of stigmata, and about 60 of these people have been sainted.
Fascinating.
But what's interesting is that only 2 of them are formally recognized by the church. And that is St. Francis, and I believe the second is Padre Pio.
So the question is, like, why does the church not... I mean, I understand that you don't want to just declare miracles left and right, but what makes these 2 miracle-worthy where the others are not?
I think it's because they're the only 2 cases of males.
What? Really?
Yeah, so here's the other interesting part about stigmata is that after St. Francis and Padre Pio, they're the only 2 monks to have ever been recognized and formally known to have stigmata. Every other case of stigmata has been by women.
Oh, wow.
Well, okay.
That's... What?
Ones that people have reported. Most stigmata is women.
That's fascinating. It's curious. I don't understand why. Huh.
So there's a little bit of
you
brain nugget for you.
Tickled my fancy.
There, I'll tickle all the fancies. But it's interesting. So then the next super famous case of stigmata is actually Miriam Theresa Chiramel.
Okay.
And she had stigmata.
And she was sainted?
No, I do not think she was sainted.
So what are the running theories for stigmata?
Just kidding. She was sainted.
So clearly they don't have an explanation for it, but what are the theories? Like, how does one get stigmata? How was 10-year-old War Beauty trying to get stigmata?
I'm going to tell you that in a second. But you know what's really interesting?
Yeah.
Is she wasn't sainted until 2019, and that was by Pope Francis, who is arguably one of the most progressive popes the church has ever had.
Yes.
So the fact that I was correct. When I knew her, she was not sainted, but she has recently since been sainted.
Fascinating.
So it seems that the church is starting to recognize the nuns.
Good.
Who are having these holy ones because so stigmata.
You guys should see her face right now. It's like breaking news.
I know. This is exciting. So stigmata, really what it comes down to is the belief behind it is that you were such a pious, virtuous person that a god or an angel or somebody came down and directly inflicted these very sacred wounds onto you as a show of your devotion and virtue. I
guess as to show everyone else that you are so Christ-like.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You're so Christ-like that you bear his holy wounds. You took that burden onto yourself, and you are paying a price for it. Now, here's what's also interesting about stigmata, And I just want to put this out here. All right. I don't know where I personally fall in this camp.
Okay.
And I need everyone to make their own choices here.
I'm so nervous. Hot takes are starting to pour out.
There is a psychological phenomena. Cannot remember it for the life of me. But the name of it. But there is a psychological phenomena that if you believe something so hard, you will literally manifest it on your body.
And we will get to that.
Right. But it's important to note, and this is where the hot take for stigmata comes in, is that these people, when they receive stigmata, they didn't just get it like randomly on a Tuesday. They were in primarily ecstatic states of fasting or starvation. They were in extreme states of prayer. They were in extreme meditative trances for holy working. And every single one of them that is recognized was in some sort of mentality, meditating on the mysteries and the virtue of Jesus. So there's not a case that is recognized or believable of someone waking up one day and being like, oh my gosh, an angel came in the middle of the night and it was like just a regular Wednesday. And then like I totally woke up with stigmata. That's not a thing. Everyone who's gotten it has fallen ill, fallen crazy, and has been, touched by the divine, but they were previously in meditation.
Okay.
So this is why stigmata is so hard to actually classify, is because this phenomena does exist. And how can you say that it isn't a holy wound, but then how can you say it is if this is what's actually happening? Your body's manifesting it.
That's the same problem that you run into with, as we've discussed previously in this series, with mental illness and actual religious diagnosis. They tend to butt heads quite frequently.
Right, and the line is so blurry. And sometimes I think that the line is the same for them, but in this case, well, yeah, I guess this is one of those cases. Is it a case of, because, okay, I personally, like Christian War Beauty, always believed that God uses science as his formal language for humans, because it's easy for us to comprehend and to quantify. So when God is performing miracles, why would he operate outside of his own laws that he's established?
Fair.
So in this case, sure, you may have been touched by an angel. You may have been touched by the divine. But you believed so heavily that not only did they touch you, but you manifested stigmata. But by proxy, they manifested stigmata because they touched you.
You are exploding my mind right now. Like, I'm sitting here trying to comprehend this and still say something for the podcast, but I'm just like, whoa.
And this is the problem with miracles.
That's crazy.
This is the big problem when it comes to physical miracles, is because that weird symbolic cycle is in play, and it's so hard to tell what is reality.
So I guess the problem that you have with stigmata is that you have to basically convince the church that it's religious and not psychological.
Yeah, and the people who...
And that's why so few of them have been recognized.
Because there's been hundreds of cases since then.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's been like 600 formal cases, but...
Oh my gosh, I'm just...
Curator Raquel is just having an existential crisis.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow.
So you see, I think stigmata is so fascinating.
Yeah, of course you do. Wow, okay. Wow. Okay.
So I don't know. I'll leave that up for our listeners to decide what they think it is and what they think it isn't. But there's just some stuff to keep in mind about it. So if someone says, hey, this person has stigmata, they might not. You never know.
Oh my goodness.
Now, what's interesting is, of course, you have people who try to cheat the system.
Yeah, of course.
I couldn't name anyone that did this, but I do know that there have been a few cases that have gotten so close to being formally recognized.
Oh my gosh.
Only for the truth to come out. And people are seriously so crazy, they will give themselves wounds.
Oh, of course. I didn't doubt that for a second.
Yeah, so that's
I've met religious zealots in my life.
Whoa, what? Carves into hand? No. Absolutely not.
At War Beauty. Yeah, no, I totally believe that people would be devoted enough to carve wounds into their own body. So that's half an episode on Stigmata. Let's talk about miracles.
Okay,
oh
so-
my gosh, that's crazy. I'm just like, okay, let's bring it back in. Let's talk about other miracles.
All right, so other modern miracles people can identify with are going to be like the blood-weeping statues. There was the Mary statue that wept blood.
I've seen images of this.
And it has since been, quote-unquote, debunked. It has not been debunked. People think that they have debunked it.
People like to believe that they're smarter than the divine.
But you did not debunk that.
Okay, so tell me about the bleeding statues.
Okay, so...
Because I've seen images, but really I thought that it was a piece of art.
No, it's literally just statues that all of a sudden start crying blood.
Start crying blood.
Yeah,
I do that sometimes.
Literally actual blood coming out of the eyeballs of these statues.
Okay, so why? What's the theory behind it? What's the religious background on that? Why would a statue? There has to be a reason, right? So, like, for Stigmata, you're so devout, you're so holy that you bear the wounds of Christ. This statue, why does it start bleeding?
I would love to be able to tell you, but the problem is that it is such a new miracle.
But, okay, is it formally recognized as a miracle?
Yes.
Why would it be classified as a miracle and not just a phenomenon, like a paranormal phenomenon?
Because it's happened several times. It's happened enough, and the tests are so inconclusive that you cannot fully...
Does it only happen on
them.
statues of Mary?
No, there are other ones that have wept blood. So the big famous one is the statue of Madonna. The Christ statue in...
Korea.
No, not Korean abs Jesus. In Australia.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jesus and Mary statues tend to have this problem the most, which is why it's classified as a miracle, is because it's
religious imagery.
Big religious figures. Well, to the Catholics at least.
Sure. Okay. So that's just a thing that happens sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes statues just be weeping blood.
Yeah. Welcome to my city. This is my big Jesus statue. Sometimes he cries.
You know, South Park
do.
South Park did a spoof episode on this.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it was...
I've never seen an episode of South Park in my life.
I don't even know why I let you in my house. But, and no, so it's...
I live with you.
That may have to change. So they did a spoof on it because these statues are believed by a lot to have healing properties.
Okay,
so that if you go and you...
Any religious imagery tends to...
touch the statue, and you're just so believing in your heart.
Mm-hmm. Your heart is so pure.
Your heart is so pure that you're going to be healed when you touch this statue. This weeping statue.
I tell you, the placebo effect of religion is just really doing it for me right now.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
It's just really doing it for me. I'm so into that.
Is it healing? Or are you just lying to yourself?
I'm so into that.
That's why miracles are kind of so sexy, is because they're really open for interpretation.
I love that. Okay, what else you got?
Okay. I want to talk about an old school miracle.
Okay.
An old school Christian miracle.
Okay.
All right.
How old is this? Because some of these, they're not in the Bible.
In the Bible.
Okay, so that's literally my words. You took them from me.
All right.
So the other ones we've discussed have not been in the Bible. They have been more recent than the Bible.
Yeah, the post-Jesus.
Post-Jesus.
Here's a Jesus miracle.
The more popular ones.
Okay, so here's my problem with this. And I'm coming at this from the angle of... I believe that God created the universe with science.
Okay.
Therefore, I believe that God would not break his own laws and perform miracles.
And therefore, there is a scientific explanation.
Therefore, there has to be a scientific explanation.
But once again, it's science that we don't understand yet.
Yes. So,
I'm finishing your sentences for you. Do you like that?
I love that. This is a miracle.
This is
right here.
The co-host energy that we all want.
The miracle of the bread and fish.
We have discussed this before.
Right, so Jesus...
in private, not on the podcast.
All right, so basically...
this is everyone's favorite miracle, by the way.
Yeah, this is like the most well-known of the Bible. If you don't know anything about Jesus or the Bible or anything, you will know the miracle of the bread and fish.
Fun fact, it's the only miracle that shows up in all 4 of the Gospels.
It is. And that's why it is so well established everywhere.
That's just Jesus canon.
It's
that
just Jesus canon. Yeah. So here's my hot take on Jesus canon.
Oh no.
Well, no, let me retell the story.
Let's tell the story. Where were they? Were they in Nineveh?
No, they were not in Nineveh. They're in, I believe, like Jerusalem.
Okay. Probably not.
Probably not. Who knows? Who knows where they're at? I graduated seminary once. He's sitting on a mountain.
Jesus.
Or a hill, rather.
Okay.
And he's about to spit some sick wisdom.
Okay, so he's giving a sermon.
Right. Jesus is about to drop the hottest knowledge on these illiterate people.
War Beauty's Bible stories.
Yeah. He's about to drop some hot knowledge on a bunch of illiterate people.
Okay.
Right? And imagine, like, cool Rabbi Jesus, and he's about to spit some sick wisdom.
Absolutely.
I would attend.
Totally.
So he's there, and he's getting ready, and, yeah, the mic is getting prepped.
Okay, yeah.
And then his homies come up to him, his entourage.
Okay.
And says...
The disciples?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they say, yo, Jesus, what are we going to feed these people? And Jesus is like, I don't know, what do we got? And they say, we got this loaf of bread and these 2 fishes.
I got a rock.
Was it 2 loaves of bread and a fish?
I don't know. Something along those lines.
Okay.
Something very easily Googleable and answerable.
Right. So they say,
Do
we
you
got
wanna
this.
Google it and get it right?
Yeah. No, I don't even care.
Okay.
I don't care. Anyway, he says, listen, we got
I'll
this.
say 1 loaf of bread and 2 fishes.
Okay. So they've got this fish and this bread. Mm-hmm. And Jesus says, all right, that's enough. And
Okay,
they said,
and we're talking about roughly, like, how many people?
oh man, there were
Like,
hundreds.
Hundreds
Yeah, there
or
were
thousands? I don't know why. I just always imagine
it was
like
hundreds.
2,000 people.
Might have
But
been.
we'll go with like 500 people.
It was something. It was a lot of people.
More people than a loaf of bread and 2 fish.
Right. That wasn't going to cut it.
That's pretty much all that the story really clarifies, is that there were more people than there were fish.
Exactly.
And or bread.
So he's going up and he just says, yo, give me
this. Oh, you guys, they're gonna love this.
watch this.
Oh, my dear.
So then Jesus presumably does abracadabra.
I think he was known for doing that, yeah.
Yeah, he does like a little...
He was really known for his, like, extra flourishes and stuff.
Right. You know, like, Wingardium Leviosa.
Sure. Like, pulling the curtain back, and boom, it's not there anymore.
Right, and he just pulled up a rabbit out of the hat.
Of course.
So, he's sawing his assistant in half. No,
He's just sawing his disciples in half.
no, I guess... I imagine Jesus kind of just did like a little finger flourish over it.
Okay, no,
for
I'm
effect.
imagining, here's how I literally actually imagined it as a child, as a Christian child.
I'm ready.
Is he had a basket, a little woven basket, with 1 loaf of bread and 2 fish in it, and then he, like, took a piece of the bread out and, like, broke off a half a loaf, and handed it to someone, and then he just kept doing that, but every time he reached in the basket, it was just a whole loaf, and so he just kept breaking it off and feeding people. I don't think it was like, boom, here's suddenly 20,000 fish, everybody come feast. I think he went through one by one and, like, hand fed them all, and there was just it was a bag of holding, actually. I don't...
No, see, here's the thing, is that it actually does specify that he didn't just magically materialize like 20,000 loaves of bread. It literally, you would put your hand in and bread never ceased to come out.
Yeah, that's how I imagined it.
Yeah, that is exactly how it's written. So here's what I'm imagining is Jesus does
Good to know that small Raquel had some sort of reading comprehension.
Right, is he does a finger flourish over these baskets.
He sprinkles some, like, special dust on it.
Right, and then I don't know if he did it himself or if they passed it around, because that's a lot of people.
I've seen, like, imagery and, like, recreations of, like, all of his... I've seen pictures... Oh, my gosh. Oh, flashback from my childhood. Like, you just, like, pulled out a long swept away memory. But I've seen images of, like, all of the disciples walking around with baskets of food because there was just so much of it.
Right, and he's got a sick concert to attend.
So maybe it wasn't just a never-ending basket, and he did just replicate a bunch of food, because I've seen images of it. I've seen, like...
Well, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
I wasn't there either, but I wish I was.
Right, I missed that.
Think of how much bread. I love bread.
And fish. Like, that would have been the highlight.
I know, it would have been great.
Right, so...
Do you think Jesus seasoned his fish?
That's my question is, like, it's bread and fish, And I imagine raw fish, like one mackerel.
I also always imagine just
one mackerel per
a raw fish just handed out to the public.
Just one carp.
Here, eat this and listen to my lesson.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who just sees these fluffy Italian style baguettes and then like one salmon.
Do you think he was... Okay, let's imagine that it was salmon for a second and that it wasn't just a raw salmon, but it was cooked. Was he still just, like, grabbing it with his bare hands? Just like, here's a salmon fillet. Enjoy.
That's what I want to know. Put it on this
bread and make a sandwich.
Just a bunch of fish sandwiches. Really, what he did was go to McDonald's. Bunch of fillet of fish.
Okay, besides the point. So Jesus performed this outstanding miracle, and he turned one loaf of bread into hundreds of loaves of bread.
Absolutely outstanding.
Fed hundreds of people, and then stood up and was like, "Did y'all see that? That's because I'm the Son of God, yo."
Right. And everyone was like, whoa, such son, much God.
Yeah, absolutely. They bought it.
So here's the hot take. Here's the controversial take. Y'all, my Christian listeners, about to hate this.
Okay, you just said Jesus went to McDonald's to feed the masses, and your next sentence is going to be a hot take?
Okay, no. Jesus is a time traveler.
Excuse me?
Jesus.
Pause. Hold on. Let me process this for a second. Did you just say that Jesus, the Son of God,
yes. I did.
A time traveler?
It's the only explanation. Because if I believe that God works within the realm of science, how can I explain how he replicated bread and fish other than
magic?
No, because what is magic to those people but a 3D printer to us? We can 3D print steak, so if Jesus was not a time traveler...
He was actually just feeding them plastic and they couldn't tell because it was a raw fish.
No, we can 3D print edible steak. That's a thing that we can do now.
Okay, so let me play in this space with you.
Okay.
Let's pretend that Jesus, the Son of God, was a time traveler.
And he had a 3D printer to make fish and bread.
I don't know.
And he just had a little portal in the baskets.
Why?
And he was like, just keep feeding
explain
them.
to me if he was a time traveler.
Okay.
Why did he have to have a 3D printer? Why couldn't he just go to a time in which he had 20,000 pieces of fish and brought that back?
He just, like, at night would, like, go back to his actual time and be like, guys, tomorrow I need approximately 20,000 of these things. Make it happen. You have 1 week.
Right. So, like, what I'm saying is, if Jesus was a time traveler, why would he just go to a point where there is more technology and not a point where he had more fish and just take those? Also, how fast was he time traveling? Was he just, like, vanish in a second and let me reach into this, poof, gone, oop, here's another fish?
No. I think that he had future technology. So imagine, like,
in the future, we're gonna invent a bag of holding.
Basically, you have this, like, this ability to have a little portal. And you can put your hand in the portal, and in that portal, there's not a lot of space, but enough for a 3D printer.
This episode has gone off the rails.
Okay, how do you suggest that he magically made fish and bread appear if he didn't have a 3D printer?
Why is it a 3D printer? Maybe he had an oven somewhere and he was baking fresh bread for them.
No, Jesus is from, like, way in the future.
Oh.
He's, like, super
So then
like
why
us.
is he using outdated technology like a 3D printer?
Maybe it's not, because in Star Trek, what is a synthesizer but a fancy 3D printer? Tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not. We all know synthesizers are nothing more than advanced 3D printers.
Okay, I just think that if Jesus was a time traveler...
You can't explain it.
I can't.
You can't.
Because...
It's so ridiculous, you can't argue it.
Okay. Explain to me. Okay, here's what I'm trying... This is where I'm caught up on the time traveler thing.
Yeah.
Okay? The resurrection.
Yeah.
Did he resurrect before he actually died?
No, he was killed, and then he came back because there was some, like, server
How did that
lag.
happen? That's not something that happens
If
when
we
you
lived in the Matrix, there would be server lag.
If he time-traveled past the crucifixion,
right,
and then came out of the tomb like, yo, why did you put me in here? Because he hasn't been crucified yet.
Right.
And then he walks out, and everything's fine and normal, And then he goes back when he's finally done with everything, and then the crucifixion actually is the end. But the timeline is wonky because he did things out of order. Because you can't die and come back. There's not a scientific explanation for necromancy.
Well, there is, but that's another episode. But, no, so if he knows that he's gonna die...
Yes.
He time travels back, leaves a note for himself, and says, hey, they're gonna crucify you, bro.
Okay.
That Jesus messes up the timeline he's already established by traveling from the past into the past by the future means.
I think you've completely lost it. You've lost the plot.
Listen, if you have a better explanation for how Jesus synthesized fish and bread, I'm all ears.
Maybe he just broke off really small pieces of bread and fed 200 people with it.
Just like crumbs.
A crumb.
Here's a crumb for you.
Okay, I wasn't prepared for that hot take.
This is a pretty hot take, though.
Okay.
Lesbians and bikinis on roller skates. Kind of hot take.
It's pretty hot. Okay. Do you have any other miracles that you would like to discuss?
Not specific ones, because you can really just look them up. There's the Shroud of Turin. There's like all kinds,
which we discussed in our Holy Relics episode.
Right,
Check it out.
Well, so let's talk about other religions.
Yes, because this is a very Christian heavy.
Right.
You're not allowed to call other religious figures time travelers.
No.
You can call Jesus that because you have a close personal relationship with him. He's your homeboy and you can say that.
Right. No, so what's interesting is you actually see the concept of miracles in the East as well.
Okay,
yes, actually. So India is like one of like the hot spots. So I don't know if you guys know Sanskrit or... Okay.
I don't know it personally. I know of it.
Okay. Right. I'm not suggesting you all go learn Sanskrit.
I don't know Sanskrit.
But there's a lot of mantras that are practiced in Eastern philosophies. And those are allegedly... So this is where something that interesting that Kung Fu Panda actually got very accurate.
Kung Fu Panda is unironically a very, very good film.
It is. I loved all three of them.
Yes.
But this is... So for those who want to know... if you've never seen it, I don't know what to tell you, but if you do know what Kung Fu Panda is...
It's a feminist icon movie.
Right.
Because they made female animal characters and didn't give them gigantic breasts.
That's true. They did. They made tigers
them
very
look
accurate.
Realistic.
True. But Poe reads the scrolls, and he is known for attaining instant enlightenment, basically, from reading. And the big
God,
one...
I wish I could do that.
Well, the big one is the Dragon Scroll.
Of course.
So whoever reads it is going to have infinite mystical universe powers. That's an actual Vedic belief.
Okay.
That's an Eastern philosophy and thought, is that if you know all the mantras, like, perfectly, you can literally obtain unlimited mystical power.
Cool.
And that is considered a miracle.
I don't imagine they let a lot of people read that.
No, you're pretty much free to read it and practice and study, but the idea of enlightenment or this nirvana is so difficult to attain that people spend 60 years of their life trying to obtain unlimited mystical power.
Yes.
But that is considered a miracle.
Okay.
It is the end of that.
Sure, because it is a divine act that is unexplained.
Yes. So here's interesting, though, is let's talk about Buddha for a second.
Let's talk about Buddha.
Okay. Buddha...
Did he perform miracles?
No. Even though he could.
Yeah. What?
Here we go. So this is an interesting opposition take to Jesus. You have this prominent figure in the East, Buddha. Buddha refused to perform miracles because he said that they were nothing more than cheap conjurer's tricks, despite the fact...
Throwing shade.
Super shade.
I love it.
Yeah, right? Here's a religious hot take.
Drama.
Like, the drama. The tea is real. So Buddha says that there are three great miracles. And there are three kinds of miracles, rather. The miracle of magic, the miracle of thought reading, and the miracle of instruction. And Buddha says he only wanted to practice, he found the most joy in the last one, because the other two are nothing more than cheap conjurer's tricks, and anyone can be impressed by them. The real miracle is being able to pass that wisdom on successfully.
Go Buddha.
Because that's something Jesus never did. And this is where the shade is real, guys.
That's true. Jesus was just like, look at all these cool tricks I can do and you can't.
Right. This is like real Jesus shade right here.
Absolutely. And I'm here for it.
Right, is that Jesus never successfully passed on the ability to perform miracles like he had because he was the Son of God. Buddha and Eastern thought...
Well, here's my hot take. That's because they have to maintain this figure of Christianity is a very well-developed machine of a religion.
Right.
And if other people were able to perform miracles, then the incentive to follow Jesus would not be as strong.
This is true.
It's very carefully curated.
It is. And in Eastern philosophy and thought, you have this prominent idea that everybody can be connected to the divine.
Right.
But only the most virtuous, devout, and studious can achieve perfection. So essentially, you know, this is what, in Western context, what we view saints as, is having achieved that in a Western context. But in Eastern philosophy believes that, well, anyone can do it, but it's actually really hard.
Sure.
So really, not just anyone can do it. It takes...
You can do it if you're strong enough, mentally and spiritually.
Right, but there is... It's rumored that all of Buddha's monks that followed him had the same 3 miracle talents that he did.
Really?
Because he was so successful as a teacher.
I would believe that. I have a copy of Buddhist works at my house that I haven't read.
You know, I really think that Buddhism and Eastern philosophy has a lot of really interesting fundamental education when it comes to metaphysics and how metaphysics interacts with the world, both faith-based and scientifically based, that Western mentality completely shuns. And I don't understand. I know why, but at the same time, you guys, this isn't 1840. This isn't 1730.
Or 1620.
Or 1620. Come on, this isn't 1410.
1510 was the next number.
Listen. I never said I was good at numbers.
I agree that there shouldn't necessarily be such a geographical divide in religion. I think that it should be more...
It's so silly.
It's extremely silly because humans are not bound by geography anymore.
No, we have this thing called the internet.
We are all everywhere at once.
Mountains no longer kill our carrier pigeons. A strong breeze doesn't kill our messenger birds.
Right. Our messages will probably reach their destination.
Right. We can rocket those things into outer space now.
Right. We can also check that they've been received.
Right.
Turn your red receipts on.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is I think that this is a mentality we've been stuck in for so long, and I understand why, but now we're in a technological age where geographical barriers, honestly, shouldn't be a factor.
I agree.
Anymore. And people should really start to...
I do think that they are less of a factor.
Okay.
I do think they are significantly less of a factor because we do have access to more information now, and the younger generations are significantly more open-minded than their predecessors.
Sure.
So it's becoming less of an issue, but I mean, it is still an issue. You still have a national religion, which is...
But yeah, that's what we're coming from.
Yeah, and that's what we know about miracles.
So let us know if you guys have had any miracles happen to you. I want to know.
I want to know what you consider a miracle, because some people consider that like childbirth, the miracle of childbirth, and honey, that's science. That's biology.
But what is a miracle but science?
What is magic?
But science, exactly.
So this has been Midnight Curiosities. Midnight Curiosities is hosted by One Eye Oddities, a new way to see magic. If you liked what you heard today, please leave us a review on Apple or iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, and tell your friends about it. Please bring a discussion to your dinner table about stigmata and how you want to be devout enough to get it when you're 10.
And then tell me about it because I want to know.
Yeah, and if you get stigmata,
send me pictures.
Hit us up.
Yeah,
we'll have you on the show. So you can reach us plenty of places. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Yeah, we're everywhere.
We're everywhere. You can look up Midnight Curiosities or One Eye Oddities and you will find us. Okay, well, join us next week for the finale of our mini-series on religious taboos. Until then, I'm Curator Raquel.
And I'm Curator Warbeauty.
As always, don't forget to
become an oddity.